Joining us by Skype is the director of Bwakaw, Jun Robles Lana. Please welcome him.
Hi, everyone.
I wanted to start by just asking a little bit about the background of the film and sort of what inspired you to tell this story about this very particular older man sort of rediscovering life.
In 2007, my mentor died, Rene Villanueva. He was a celebrated playwright and children's book author in the Philippines. And when he died, my greatest fear was forgetting him. And I decided to embark on this writing project and to honor my mentor. But when I started the screenplay, I didn't have a story to begin with, but what I had was this fictional character heavily based on Rene, my mentor, a man who was always at odds with himself, who was harsh and generous at the same time. It was a character so interesting to me that I was able to build a story around it, and it became a story about growing old, about missed opportunities, about how desire is inextricable from our lives. And I've also always wanted to do a dog movie. Yeah, but not in the vein of Marley and Me. I was looking for a tone treatment that was quieter and subdued, and I felt it was an interesting juxtaposition. This old man who was just waiting for his death, and this dog who was dying, but at the same time still maintained this a sense of abandon and hunger for life.
Yeah, I would say it's more Umberto D than Marley and Me, thankfully. But the performance of Eddie Garcia is quite spectacular, and maybe you can actually, for people who don't know Eddie Garcia and his hundreds of credits in the Philippine film industry, you could talk a little bit about who he is and why you decided to cast him in this part.
Eddie Garcia is a multi-awarded actor and director in the Philippines. He is like the Clint Eastwood of the Philippines. He started his career in the 1950s as a character actor, and then he reinvented himself as a film director, and then he reinvented himself again when he was in his 50s as an action star. And now he acts in soap operas, and he remains a huge star, and he's very, very straight.
And was he immediately interested to play this part? Did you have to convince him to play it?
Um, um, Eddie Garcia was really my first and only choice to play the role of Rene. And because I've worked with him, I've known Eddie Garcia for years. I've written parts for him in different TV shows. I've even directed him in a soap opera, so it was really quite easy for me to approach him and offer him the role. All I did was really send him a copy of the script. And a few days later, he called to say that he loved the script, he loved the story, he liked his role, and he immediately signed on to the project without even asking me how much he was getting for it.
And talk about casting your other star, Princess, who plays Bwakaw. I think the dog from The Artist just got nervous that there's some competition in town.
Um, there was another dog who was supposed to play the role of Bwakaw, but a month before the shoot, the owner just backed out of the project, and we were left with no dog. And I almost shelved the project. Out of desperation, because we didn't have enough time to hold another edition, I just decided to try my luck on YouTube, and that's where I found Princess. Her owner has this dog camp, and the dog camp specializes in training Aspins or Philippine mutts. And that same day, I went to the dog camp and I met Princess for the first time. She's a 2-year-old half golden retriever, and she also happens to be a highly trained bomb sniffing dog.
I'm gonna turn. I sense there's a fascinating anecdote behind every question. I'm gonna turn it over to the audience now. Yes, here in the front. Oh, wait for the microphone. Yeah.
So Bwakaw was a successful bomb-sniffing dog. Do you have any additional stories that might be able to be made into a film based on her career experience? And How is the film, given the, all these different sides of the gay community there, how is the film accepted in the Philippines?
Well, to answer your question about Princess, she's actually a star now in the Philippines. She has her own soap opera. Yes, seriously. And Bwakaw lasted 2 weeks in the box office. We released it last October and rather last September, and it lasted 2 weeks in the box office, competing against really big commercial releases. It made a little over 4 million pesos, which is roughly the entire cost of making the film. So we made break even. At the Cinemalaya, it was a box office hit at the Cinemalaya, but then it's a different crowd. It's made mostly of students.
Other questions? I would like to, Jim?
It's been a Filipino films that have had gay themes which are very integrated into the neighborhood and the community. They're not separate fantasy stories, such as Maximum Flowers. And I just wondered, also involving intergenerational people in a neighborhood, the gay characters are very integrated into their neighborhood. Could you talk a little bit about how in a basically Catholic Muslim country, this kind of acceptance of the homosexual inside the community, working people's community?
Despite the fact that the Philippines is a predominantly Catholic country, and despite the fact that we were raised early on we were made to believe and that being gay is a sin, Filipinos in general are very gay-friendly and open-minded. We have really no problem about films like this. Gay films in general are released every month. We have new gay films being released every month in the Philippines, so it's not really a problem. We don't have issues about films like this.
Does the film cross over into a general audience, or does it remain in a film like yours?
It really depends on as an independent filmmaker, we still encounter problems trying to distribute our films, and until we get the government support, films like this will get, I think, wider acceptance, because right now it's the big studios that control the cinemas. So, for example, with Bwakaw, we were only able to release it to a limited number of cinemas in Manila, only about 12 to 15 cinemas, and there are over 100 cinemas in Manila.
Can you talk a little bit about the visual style of the film and maybe what some of your influences were there? Because I think when we looked at the film for the festival, one of the things that was so striking was the very sort of carefully composed and very beautifully lit images. And I think, when one thinks about films from the Philippines, even some of the great masterpieces of Lino Broca look like films that were made very quickly in very sort of frantic circumstances, and they don't have this kind of polished, very painterly sort of aesthetic to them.
Well, we made a movie in 10 straight days. We had no choice because of budget constraints and because of conflict in schedules of the actors. But we spent a great deal of time in pre-production deciding on the smallest detail. When I decided to make the film, it was clear to me from the very beginning that in order to capture the spirit of Bwakaw, which is for me really all about silences. For me, Bwakaw is a film about silences, and for me to capture that spirit, I had to be very sparing with my coverage, with the movement of the camera, even with the use of music. The music had to be very unobtrusive. But at the same time, I didn't want the tone to be bleak. So it was also important for me to to employ a lot of humor in the storytelling because I wrote the screenplay to honor my mentor, and I wanted it to be a celebration of life.
Yes, there, yes. Just wait for the microphone, please. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a little bit if you can explain more about the Santo Entierro, because at the beginning, well, it's not a corpse, obviously, it's a statue, but if the mother already was dead, why did he keep the Santo Entierro all the time? Or how is it? I didn't understand very well. What is it? The ceremony.
The Santo Enchero is a memory of Rene's mother. So it was very important for him to keep the Santo Enchero. And in the Philippines, we're a very religious people.
Okay.
Even if our relatives die, we see extensions of our relatives in the objects that they leave behind. And the Santo Enchero is an example of that. However, the neighbor, Nitang, believes that the Santo Enchero is miraculous, which is something Rene rejects because he is also conflicted about his faith, about his religion, because he feels bitter about lost opportunities, thinking that it was his conflict against the church that prevented him to pursue his happiness.
Yeah, we have one there in the center.
How you doing? I really enjoyed the film quite a lot, and the setting was like really striking with especially the last shot with the palm tree. So could you talk about like what part of the Philippines this was filmed? Because usually the Filipino films that we see here are usually in Manila. You don't really get to see like other parts of the country so much.
Yeah, well, in scouting for locations, the first order of the day for us was to look for Rene's house, because Rene's house, I think, is a character in itself. It's a direct reflection of Rene's bleak outlook in life. And once we found that house, it only made sense for us to look for the other locations nearby. And we found a house in San Pablo, Laguna. It's a provincial town in the outskirts of Metro Manila.
Yes, all the way in the back. Yeah.
You mentioned something about the government and the cinemas, and in relation to that, I'm wondering what film the Philippine, I don't know whether you have an academy or a group of filmmakers that submits for Academy consideration for the Foreign Film Award. And I was wondering whether it's politics, because I can't see anything from the Philippines that could possibly compete with this.
You're in luck, Marilyn, because this is their submission this year to the Oscars. Yeah.
I'm thrilled. I'm an Academy member and I vote.
Thank you. I'm sorry, what was the question?
I wanted to know whether you had submitted this for Academy consideration, because usually, or whether the government and the politics, because only one film from every country can be submitted. And
Okay.
I just was wondering what film from the Philippines was the film, because I can't see anything that could beat this.
Oh,
This
thank
is
you
a
very much.
wonderful, wonderful film.
Wow. Thank
It's
you very much.
spectacular.
Thank you. Well, we just found out several weeks ago that the Film Academy of the Philippines chose Bwakaw as the Philippine Oscar entry. It was really a surprise for me. I did not expect that this film which I made for very personal reasons would resonate with so many people, get invited to all these festivals, and now it's been anointed as the Philippine Oscar entry. I mean, how crazy is that?
Yes, there. Just the back there.
First of all, on behalf of the Filipinos in the audience, I'd like to congratulate you. And
Thank you.
two small questions. Like, what kind of conversations did you have with Eddie Garcia over the character? So, you know, in internalizing it on his part. And second question is, how did you deal with the stereotypes of you know, of
Mm.
gay portrayals? I mean,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
we
okay.
have all these
Right.
stereotypes in among Philippine gays, and how did you work around that?
Okay. Well, with Eddie Garcia, from the very first reading, he was fantastic. He immediately transformed into Rene. And I think the great thing about Eddie Garcia is that he is a director. He is a filmmaker himself, so he understood where I wanted to take the story. And I'm not sure if he completely agreed with all my decisions, but he is a professional through and through, and he respected me as his director. Well, with regards to the stereotypes, I guess you could call, for example, the characters of Saldi and Tracy stereotypes. But in writing their characters, I just really tried to be very honest and true, and just followed my instinct. I felt that um, um, I felt that a stereotypical character like Saldi, a flamboyant gay character like Saldi, it's possible for him and Rene to be friends. When I wrote this script, when I wrote the characters, I just really tried to be very honest with and just tried to. Just really tried to stay true to my vision. I never thought of them as stereotypes.
Yes, here. Just wait, Jim, for the. Yeah.
Following up on that response, the two queens in the film, you walk a very delicate line between stereotype and real people. And in films that we've seen from the Philippines, the effeminate homosexual is represented quite broadly. In this film, you have two queens, if I may say it that way, who are really human beings. And I just want to know how you pulled them in and didn't become exaggerated.
I have a 90-page character sketch of Rene, and that was the basis of the screenplay. And in that character sketch, for example, it tells the backstory of Rene and Saldi. Um, in that backstory, I think as an audience, all you got was this one piece of dialogue from Saldi that said that he and Rene were childhood friends. But in my character sketch, it not only were they childhood friends, but they were friends when they went to the same school for 10 years. Their mothers were best of friends, practically sisters. And later in life, when Saldi wanted to put up his own beauty salon, it was Rene who gave Saldi the money to realize that dream. And so you understand why Saldi is so loyal to Rene. But these are things that you don't see in the film. And I don't think you have to see them in the film. They are implied through this, hopefully through the wonderful performance of Eddie Garcia and Soxy Topacio. You would get that sense of familiarity, the sense of closeness of these two friends. In answering your question, you see all this. You see these two stereotypical characters, and you see them making fun of each other, but they actually have a detailed history, which I discussed with all of them, with all the actors, and I think that that guided them, and that became the truth of their performance.
I think we have time for one more over here. Yes.
Hi. First of all, I was wondering whether your very, very different feature films you've done before, Bwakaw, had performed differently in box office. And, well, what are you going to do next? More of movies that are more like Bwakaw, or something different altogether?
Prior to Bwakaw, I'm a very commercial director. I direct for TV and film, And all my past works have been very commercial, from horror to romantic comedies to soap operas. This is the first independently produced movie I did, because when you do commercial films that follow a certain formula, it gets tiring, doing the same thing over and over. And I thought it was really time to do something different and to do a passion project. I have a lot of scripts gathering dust in my room, very personal scripts, and Bwakaw was one of them. And I thought it was time to take a risk and do a film like Bwakaw. And I'm hoping, I'm really encouraged by the reception, by the shower of affection that this film is getting. I'm hoping to do more films like Bwakaw.
And we look forward to seeing them. Jun Robles Lana, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you soon in New York.
Thank you. Yeah, see you soon. Thanks.